Beneath the glittering spotlight of Hollywood's golden age, a cadre of luminous women captivated the world with an allure that seemed almost otherworldly. Their faces adorned screens in black and white glamour, their lives the very definition of opulence. Each one was a paragon of beauty, draped in gowns that shimmered like stars, their entrances and exits as dramatic as the films they starred in. Indeed, they danced with destiny, embodied dreams, and rewrote the rules of fame, becoming icons whose influence rippled through generations. Yet fame, like time, is a fleeting companion, and these dazzling queens, once reigning from their palatial estates, eventually watched their fortunes fade as the world moved on. Today, we take you through their majestic homes, sprawling mansions that had once played host to Hollywood's brightest, that would crumble alongside their careers, lost to the relentless march of history. The year is 1976, and one-of-a-kind screen icon and Hollywood darling Elizabeth Taylor is still reeling from her second divorce from leading man Richard Burton. With the golden haze of her film career waning, Elizabeth finds herself at a crossroads, her life unfurling into new and uncharted territories. In the midst of this personal upheaval, Elizabeth marries her seventh husband, John Warner, a Republican politician. When they're together, they split their time relaxing between the calm environs of Warner's Virginia farm and their Georgetown, Washington, D.C. townhouse. Her screen appearances grow more selective, her career momentarily fades from the public eye, and yet she still needs to maintain a home base in Hollywood unless she wants to mount a major comeback. It is during this transformative phase, at the beginning of a new year, 1982, that Elizabeth purchases a grand mansion in Bel-Air at 700 Nims Road. And it is this mansion that will stand not just as a home but as a fortress against the stressful echoes of her past glories, and where new chapters await. Now, today, in the 21st century, this iconic property still presides over Bel-Air with the grandeur of its Hollywood legacy intact. Yet, beneath its stately calm, a storm brews. A local Hollywood mega-developer has cast his ambitious gaze upon the mansion, wishing to demolish it to make way for a modern monolith. As the shadow of bulldozers looms, the fate of Elizabeth Taylor's favorite home hangs in a delicate balance, threatening to erase a piece of Hollywood history forever, as we describe the shocking plan to destroy Elizabeth Taylor's Bel-Air mansion. In 1960, a quintessential California ranch-style house rose on the prestigious 700 Nimes Road. Initially, this charming home belonged to Nancy Sinatra, Frank Sinatra's first wife, and following their time there, Nancy passed the property to a developer who transformed it by overhauling the interiors and adding a grand second story. This remodeled and enhanced home soon caught the eye of Elizabeth Taylor, who in February 1982 purchased it for $2 million, a sum that equates to around $6.3 million today. And by acquiring this residence, Taylor was embedding herself in the heart of Bel-Air, a locale synonymous with opulence and exclusivity within Los Angeles. You see, Bel-Air, along with Beverly Hills and Holmby Hills, constitutes the famed Platinum Triangle, a bastion of wealth and prestige that ranks among the most coveted residential spots in the city. The allure of Bel-Air was further solidified in the late 1970s as it became the residence of choice for Hollywood's elite, influential business magnates and the supremely affluent. Specifically, the neighborhood's charm lay in its private, expansive estates that boasted acre-sized lots, hidden away behind ornate gates and surrounded by lush greenery. This combination offered a secluded, luxurious lifestyle that was unparalleled in Southern California, and Nims Road itself held a particular appeal due to its prime position in Lower Bel-Air. This location provided convenient access to the vibrant scenes of Beverly Hills and West Hollywood while retaining a serene privacy. Its winding roads and hillside properties offered breathtaking views across the Los Angeles basin, adding to its desirability. Therefore, during its illustrious era, Bel-Air became home to a litany of showbiz legends, including Alfred Hitchcock, Judy Garland, and Zsa Zsa Gabor, along with a host of prominent figures from the business world and aristocratic old money families. To own a home in Bel-Air was a clear indicator of having reached the zenith of Los Angeles society, and property values soared throughout the 1970s and 1980s, driven by the continuous demand for these prestigious addresses. Thus, for a celebrity of Elizabeth Taylor's stature, Bel-Air was more than a home. It was a sanctuary. The area's reputation for stringent security and privacy was a significant attraction, and the extensive grounds of her estate allowed her to host private gatherings away from the intrusive lenses of the paparazzi. Moreover, the community's exclusive atmosphere fostered a close-knit social circle among its celebrity residents. Consequently, by choosing to invest in 700 Nimes Road, Elizabeth Taylor was not merely purchasing a property, she was embracing a lifestyle emblematic of her status as Hollywood royalty. The residence's rich history, combined with its esteemed location on one of the most sought-after streets in Bel-Air, affirmed its suitability as a home fit for a star of her magnitude. Additionally, as we'll see in the next chapter, moving into this house, one that would stay with her until the end of her life, marked a key transition for a star who had been world famous since she was just a little girl. The year 1982 marked a pivotal turn in Elizabeth Taylor's illustrious life. You see, she had just triumphantly returned to the stage, starring in a revival of Lillian Hellman's play The Little Foxes, a performance that earned her critical acclaim and solidified her versatility as an actress beyond her cinematic achievements. In the same breath of this career high, she chose the Bel-Air mansion, and this 7,000-square-foot ranch-style home was set to be her main residence until her death in 2011. Indeed, staying in one house for so long, for Taylor, marked a notable contrast to the transitory nature of celebrity real estate in Hollywood, where stars usually move in and out as their careers ebb and flow. The estate laid on 1.27 acres and was meticulously outfitted with 6 bedrooms, including 2 opulent master suites and 6 bathrooms. And the grounds were a monument to Taylor's love for the exquisite, featuring a bricked motor court, a resplendent turquoise swimming pool, a serene koi pond, and an enchanting English rose garden. Yet, despite the idyllic setting, Taylor's personal life during this era was soon fraught with challenges. The eventual failure of her relationship with politician John Walter heightened Taylor's feelings of isolation, and this period of upheaval plunged Taylor into a battle with depression and substance abuse, leading to a significant stay at the Betty Ford Center in 1983. This marked a crucial chapter in her life, signaling the start of her journey toward recovery and her future role as an advocate for addiction recovery services. Thus, throughout her time in the mansion, Taylor's aesthetic sensibilities prompted several redesigns of the interiors, each alteration reflecting a new phase in her personal life and career. These changes were not just updates, but reinventions, mirroring the resilience and transformation she displayed in both her public and private lives. Now, Elizabeth Taylor's Bel-Air mansion, designed by Waldo Fernandez, who later lent his expertise to stars like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, was a masterclass in elegance and personal expression. In 1984, Fernandez transformed the interiors, installing white carpets that set a serene tone throughout the space. This mansion melded opulence with intimate touches that mirrored Taylor's personal life and passions, and the walls were graced with impressionist artworks, a tribute to her father's career as an art dealer. Her gardens were a riot of roses, the very blooms that inspired her perfume line, launched in 1987, and the decor's palette of blues and lavenders mirrored the shade of Taylor's iconic violet eyes, creating a space that was a reflection of her very essence. Among the home's artistic treasures was a remarkable piece by Vincent van Gogh, Vue de la Sille et de la Chapelle de Saint-Rémy, a poignant artwork from a turbulent period in Van Gogh's life. Taylor, appreciating the depth of its historical and emotional resonance, had displayed this masterpiece in her living room for nearly 5 decades. When it was auctioned in 2012, it fetched nearly $16 million, speaking to the prestige of Taylor's collection. But the mansion wasn't just a showcase of high art. It was a home that resonated with Taylor's modesty, despite her grandeur. Biographer Alexander Walker noted the surprisingly humble nature of her abode, which was filled with works by Degas, Matisse, Pissarro, and Renoir, effectively turning her living spaces into a gallery of late 19th and early 20th century art. Furthermore, Taylor's personal assistant, Tim Mendelssohn, shared that despite housing all those masterpieces, Taylor designed her home to be welcoming, where guests could relax without fear of damaging priceless art. The trophy room on the ground floor displayed photos of celebrities and royalty, while the more private upstairs area was adorned with family photographs, creating a personal sanctuary within the grand estate. And the furnishings were meticulously chosen to exude warmth, crafting an inviting atmosphere starkly different from Taylor's glamorous public image. The inclusion of personal items, such as Chanel shoes and childhood ballet slippers, added layers of intimacy. These elements, displayed with care, offered a window into Taylor's personal life, blending everyday simplicity with her public splendor. Even Valentino, the fashion icon and Taylor's close friend, observed that she favored a relaxed home environment, a stark contrast to her dazzling public appearances. And her residence was not only a haven for herself, but also for her children, grandchildren, and a menagerie of pets, including dogs, cats, and a parrot named Alvin, all of whom added to the lively, cherished atmosphere of her home. Additionally, her gardens helped build the relaxing and home-like atmosphere for Taylor and her family, as we'll see in the next chapter. In the 1980s and 1990s, wealthy stars in Bel-Air often favored ostentatious displays of luxury in their gardens, and many opted for manicured lawns, elaborate water features, and exotic plant collections that required extensive maintenance. Palm trees, citrus groves, and Mediterranean-inspired landscaping were common, reflecting the area's climate and the desire for a resort-like atmosphere. Taylor's approach, however, was distinctly different. Her garden, meticulously designed by Nicholas Walker, aimed to recreate an authentic English herbaceous border, a nod to her British roots. This was a departure from the typical Bel-Air aesthetic of the time, which often prioritized show over substance. Walker faced the challenge of adapting English garden principles to Southern California's arid climate, and he ingeniously incorporated plants from around the world to achieve Taylor's vision of year-round color and vibrancy. The garden featured an array of pansies, from black violet to variegated yellow, planted in large wood planters, some up to 16 feet long. Additionally, the estate boasted several features typical of high-end Bel-Air properties, including a bricked motor court and a swimming pool. However, it was the garden that truly set it apart. Unlike many celebrity homes of the era that were designed primarily for entertaining and impressing guests, Taylor's garden was created with family in mind. Annual Easter egg hunts were a tradition, complete with a petting zoo for children. Occasionally, performers from Cirque du Soleil would provide outdoor entertainment, adding an element of whimsy and surprise that was characteristic of Taylor's personality. A bronze sculpture of a calf, created by Taylor's daughter, Liza Todd Tivey, added a personal touch to the garden. This piece was part of a pair, with its twin located in Gstaad, Switzerland, symbolizing the connection between Taylor's different worlds. Therefore, while many Bel-Air gardens of the time were high-maintenance showpieces, Taylor's was a living, breathing space that evolved with the seasons and her family's needs. It reflected her desire for color and more color, as Walker put it, but also served as a home base for family gatherings and celebrations. By the early 1990s, the illustrious career of Elizabeth Taylor had gracefully pivoted from the cinematic expanse of Hollywood to the more intimate screens of television. During this era, she graced various TV productions, including memorable roles in Sweet Bird of Youth, voiced characters in Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and made a special appearance in The Simpsons. Yet, It was in the sphere of philanthropy where Taylor's star shone with unwavering brilliance, particularly in her advocacy for AIDS awareness. The founding of the American Foundation for AIDS Research in 1985, followed by the creation of the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation in 1991, marked significant milestones in her lifelong commitment to the cause. And her tireless efforts were recognized with numerous honors, including the Presidential Citizens Medal and the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. It was also during this time where the photographer Bruce Weber captured the essence of Taylor's private world, recalling a meeting at her home where she appeared in men's Chinese silk pajamas, a testament to her relaxed personal style. Actress Sharon Stone also reflected on Taylor's profound warmth and hospitality, noting how her home was a mirror of her generous spirit. And, despite shifting away from the limelight, Taylor's personal life continued to captivate public interest throughout the 1990s and 2000s. Her romantic entanglements, notably her 8 marriages to 7 different men, culminated in her last union with Larry Fortensky from 1991 until 1996. Throughout these tumultuous relationships, Taylor maintained a strong bond with her extensive family, including 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. Then, the depth of Taylor's personal aesthetic was vividly captured in 2010, when photographer Catherine Opie was granted unprecedented access to her residence. Over 6 months, Opie took over 3,000 photographs for her series 700 Nims Road, providing a comprehensive portrayal of Taylor's eclectic tastes. From couture gowns and renowned jewelry collections to everyday items like a TV remote manual, the range was astounding. Opie's lens focused on the minutiae of Taylor's domestic life, from the carefully arranged closets showcasing elegant pantsuits to the small gatherings of trinkets on a side table or a diamond tiara resting nonchalantly on a cushion. Her approach not only captured the physical spaces, but also highlighted the textural diversity that characterized Taylor's surroundings, offering a window into the personal world of a public figure. Now, Elizabeth Taylor, celebrated for her resilience and indomitable spirit, faced numerous health challenges in her later years. Her life, filled with both splendor and struggle, came to a close on the 23rd of March 2011, due to congestive heart failure at the age of 79. Her legacy, encapsulated in her cinematic triumphs and humanitarian efforts, continues to resonate, painting the portrait of a woman whose life was as richly textured as the world she fashioned around herself. Following Taylor's passing, her iconic Bel-Air residence was promptly listed for sale with an asking price of $8.6 million and soon found a new owner. The buyer, Rocky Malhotra, an Indian entrepreneur known for his ventures in the razor blade industry, chose to preserve the original structure and its lush surroundings, and his respect for the home's historical integrity allowed the essence of Taylor's spirit to remain intact within its walls. However, the sanctity of this cherished property faced a new challenge years later, when it sold in an off-market deal for $11 million. And the new owner, R.D. Tavangarian, a Los Angeles-based real estate developer renowned for his luxurious and expansive spec mansions, harbored different visions for the site. Tavangarian's plans to demolish Taylor's former residence and replace it with a more grandiose edifice is stirring discontent among fans and preservationists alike. Many fear that the destruction of Taylor's longtime home would erase the historical and cultural significance that had permeated its very structure. As discussions about the future of the property unfold, the community of admirers and historians rally, voicing their concerns and advocating for the preservation of the home as a testament to Taylor's remarkable life and career. On the golden shores of Santa Monica, California, where the waves whispered secrets to the stars, stood a mansion so grand it made the heavens seem within reach. Yet this was not just any mansion. It was a 100-room behemoth of extravagance, a seaside party palace where Hollywood's brightest stars convened for nights of uninhibited revelry. With their laughter echoing like a seductive symphony under the moonlit sky, the so-called beach house played host to scenes that would make The Great Gatsby read like afternoon tea time in a quiet garden. At the heart of this opulent paradise was its queen, actress Marion Davies, a dazzling star in her own right, entwined with the most powerful media mogul of the time, William Randolph Hearst. But their love was not just a romance. It was a creative partnership that gave birth to this architectural wonder. Every inch of the mansion was a love letter to luxury, crafted with an eye for detail so meticulous it bordered on the divine. Yet, in a twist more tragic than Orson Welles' Rosebud moment in Citizen Kane, the classic satire of Hearst and Davies, this monument to glamour and excess met an unfathomable end. As the golden age of Hollywood faded into the shadows of World War II, this iconic home to luxury fell to the cold, unfeeling hand of the market and was turned into a parking lot, of all things. In today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we'll describe how this decision was more than just the demolition of a building for profit. It was the end of a legendary era in the City of Angels and the extinguishing of a light that once burned brightly on the shores of Santa Monica, as we describe. Why Los Angeles' most luxurious mansion was demolished. Born on the 3rd of January 1897 into a close-knit family, Marion Cecilia Duras, who would become the illustrious Marion Davies, early years were a blend of familial warmth and personal challenges. Her father, Bernard J. Duras, a distinguished lawyer and judge, and her mother, Rose Riley, a devoted homemaker, provided a nurturing environment for Marion and her siblings. Despite battling a stutter, Marion's resilient spirit propelled her to leave school and step into the limelight of show business. As a teenager, Marion embarked on her theatrical voyage, joining the ranks of chorus girls. Inspired by her sister Raina, who had adopted the stage name Davies, Marion too embraced this persona, stepping onto Broadway's glittering stages. Her early career saw her star in the 1917 film Runaway Romany, marking the beginning of a dazzling journey in the entertainment industry. Soon thereafter, Marion's fate intertwined with that of William Randolph Hearst, the fabulously wealthy newspaper tycoon, during her stint in the Ziegfeld Follies. Captivated by her charm, Hearst pledged to elevate her to stardom, establishing a production company dedicated to her craft, and under his patronage, Marion flourished, gracing over 45 films with her presence. However, Marion's ascent was not without its shadows. The untimely demise of film producer Thomas Ince at a party on her lover William Randolph Hearst's yacht cast a pall over her career in 1924. Despite this, Marion continued to captivate audiences, becoming a silent film icon. And off the camera, Marion's heart was as golden as her on-screen personas. Her philanthropy, especially towards children's causes and aspiring actors, mirrored the generosity of her spirit. In 1924, her star shone brightest as theatre owners crowned her Queen of the Screen. Now, Marion and William Randolph's shared creative vision soon culminated in brainstorming a grand mansion in Santa Monica in 1926. This architectural marvel, a reflection of their affluence and societal status, was intended to stand as a symbol of their dreams, ambitions, and the love they shared, despite the whispers of scandal and controversy that trailed their union. Thus, in 1926, Marion Davies and William Randolph Hearst were poised on the cusp of architectural history as they sought the perfect architect for their Santa Monica mansion. Amidst heightened anticipation, they breathlessly searched for an architectural visionary capable of encapsulating their love, influence, and the golden era of Hollywood in a landmark that would transcend time, and soon enough, they would find one. In the radiant panorama of Santa Monica's architectural landscape, the inception of the Marion Davies mansion in 1926 marked the beginning of a remarkable era. Envisioned as an icon of grandeur and sophistication, its genesis was entrusted to architect Julia Morgan, a luminary in creative design at the time. Morgan, celebrated for shattering glass ceilings in a then predominantly male-dominated field, had an impressive portfolio of over 700 structures. And her design ethos, characterized by meticulous attention and hands-on involvement, set a high bar for architectural excellence. The mansion's patron, William Randolph Hearst, helped choose Morgan for Davies, drawing on their prior collaboration at the illustrious Hearst Castle. The Santa Monica venture was therefore a further embodiment of Hearst's architectural aspirations, mirroring his deep engagement in the creation of his own San Simeon estate. Now Morgan's architectural blueprint was a masterstroke of elegance and opulence, melding a sprawling 100-room mansion with an exquisitely designed marble pool. Without a doubt, this majestic estate was conceived to be the crown jewel of Santa Monica's Gold Coast, a hub for the Hollywood elite and a nexus for social gatherings of the highest order. Next, the groundbreaking in 1927 heralded the construction phase, intertwining Hearst's vision with Morgan's architectural acumen. This collaboration, although fraught with challenges, was a confluence of Hearst's detailed oversight and Morgan's unparalleled focus on precision, culminating in a resplendent symbol of their combined genius. Creatively, the mansion's architectural narrative wove together Art Deco and Mediterranean motifs, playing out a symphony of styles. The interior echoed the splendor of the Art Deco movement, featuring a bespoke nightclub that exuded the era's chic and glamour. In contrast, the exterior resonated with Georgian revival influences, showcasing a balanced amalgamation of classical proportions and ancient Greco-Roman aesthetics. Further, the Mediterranean inspiration was palpable in the mansion's expansive layout, reminiscent of a luxurious villa and strategically positioned on a 5-acre oceanfront plot. And it boasted amenities befitting an empress, over 100 lavish rooms, tennis courts, guest houses, and an ornate marble swimming pool, all resonating with the aura of Hearst's and Davies' distinguished tastes. Now, the interior design, completed in 1929, was a canvas for Davies' preferences, adorned with Tiffany chandeliers and treasures from Hearst's European sojourns. After the completion of the building's construction phase, Marion Davies and William Randolph Hearst soon stood on the cusp of unveiling their architectural masterpiece in Santa Monica. The air buzzed with anticipation for the grand opening, a lavish affair set to redefine opulence. Yet, beneath the surface, a question still lingered in their minds. Would the crème de la crème of Santa Monica and Los Angeles embrace the mansion's artistic and cultural splendors, or would their grand vision fall short of the glittering societal expectations? Unveiled with much fanfare in the 1920s by media magnate William Randolph Hearst for actress Marion Davies, the affectionately titled Beach House swiftly became the epicenter of Hollywood's glamorous rendezvous. And Marion Davies, stepping into the mansion, quickly embraced her newfound role as the toast of Hollywood's high society. Indeed, the Beach House, under her stewardship, instantly transformed into a haven for the who's who of Tinseltown. And these gatherings held within these walls were not just parties, they were the epitome of exclusivity and elegance, drawing the crème de la crème from various industries, with Hollywood's brightest stars always in attendance. At the heart of these lavish festivities was the dining room, repurposed as a celebratory sanctum dedicated to the grand soirees hosted by Davies. The walls and windows, adorned with large-scale photographic scrims, served as silent narrators of the high life. They would showcase an array of A-list guests and snapshots of Davies herself, often captured in joyous moments with her beloved Hearst. And during the early 1930s, Santa Monica found itself in a transformative phase. The city, having enjoyed the nationwide prosperity of the 1920s, saw its population more than double from 15,000 to 32,000. However, the Great Depression struck hard, plummeting employment figures to a mere 1,000 by 1933. Through this economic turmoil, the Davies Mansion remained an unyielding beacon of festivity and resilience, its parties continuing unabated. And the mansion's influence on Santa Monica's cultural fabric was undeniable. It wasn't just a residence, it was a cultural icon, instrumental in cementing the city's reputation as a gathering place for the affluent and famous. Thus, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over Santa Monica, the Marion Davies Mansion stood poised on the brink of an era that would etch its name in the annals of Hollywood history. Behind its grand facade, preparations were underway for a series of soirees that would redefine luxury and extravagance. Nestled along the sun-drenched shores of Santa Monica, the Marion Davies Santa Monica Mansion, or simply the Beach House, stood as a symbol of opulence and social magnetism in the 1930s. This magnificent estate, with its sprawling grounds and palatial architecture, played host to the era's most illustrious figures, creating a vibrant tapestry of glamour and festivity against the backdrop of Hollywood's golden age. At the heart of this grandeur was, of course, Marion Davies, whose charisma and hospitality knew no bounds. The beach house became the epicenter of high society, frequented by the likes of Charlie Chaplin, Louis B. Mayer, Samuel Goldwyn, Greta Garbo, and Clark Gable. And these were not mere social gatherings, but elaborate spectacles, where each event outshone the last. Davies's legendary costume parties, particularly, became synonymous with Hollywood's elite extravagance. Yet, the beach house's allure extended beyond its grand parties. During the tumultuous years of the Great Depression, Davies transformed her home into a sanctuary for those in the film industry facing hardship. Her altruistic spirit shone brightly as she offered meals and aid, often discreetly handing off jewelry and cash to her less fortunate guests. This act of generosity not only solidified the beach house's status within the community, but also showcased Davies's caring and considerate nature. Therefore, the architectural splendor of the beach house, combined with Davies's innate flair for hospitality, rendered the mansion a beacon of hope and unity. Her gatherings transcended mere social frivolity. They fostered a sense of camaraderie and support during an era marked by economic and social upheaval. Thus, by the late 1930s, the beach house had earned the moniker Versailles of Hollywood, a fitting tribute to its cultural and historical significance. And Davies's personal life, particularly her long-standing relationship with William Randolph Hearst, added another layer to the mansion's narrative. Despite the complexities of their liaison, such as Hearst being married the entire time, their bond endured until his passing in 1951. Therefore, Marion Davies, much more than just Hearst's companion, was a pivotal figure in the social fabric of Hollywood. Her hosting prowess extended from the grandiose Hearst Castle to the serene beach house, each party a lavish affair attended by the era's most celebrated personalities, from film stars to international dignitaries. However, in the next decade, the even more volatile 1940s, both Marion's life and the fate of the illustrious beach house would be pushed to their absolute breaking points. Now, in the 1940s, much like the rest of the world, Santa Monica's landscape was undergoing a profound transformation. The advent of World War II cast a shadow over the earlier period of extravagance in Golden Age Hollywood. The global conflict, marked by events like the attack on Pearl Harbor and the Battle of Iwo Jima, stirred fears of a Japanese invasion on American soil, and these tensions resonated even within the walls of Davies' palatial estate. Such pressing international concerns, coupled with the decline of Hearst's business empire and his declining health, formed a backdrop to the significant decisions Davies faced. Thus, in a move that reflected her astute financial acumen, Davies sold the beach house in 1945 amidst a property tax dispute, marking the end of an era for the mansion. The property, in its next incarnation, was acquired in 1947 by hotelier Joseph Drown for $600,000, roughly $8.2 million in today's US currency, who reimagined it as Ocean House, a luxurious hotel and exclusive beach club. Yet despite its inherent opulence, the hotel's success was fleeting, and the main mansion met its demise, crushed by demolition in 1956, a decision that faced opposition from local residents. Yet the Sand and Sea Club, a part of the estate, continued to thrive. The narrative of the estate took another turn when the state of California purchased it in 1960, repurposing the land into a parking lot of all things. Although the Sand and Sea Club remained operational under the city of Santa Monica, the 1994 Northridge earthquake caused severe damage, leading to the site's eventual wholesale abandonment. However, in a remarkable twist of architectural fate, the Annenberg Foundation intervened in 2005 with a substantial financial investment, breathing new life into the site. This led to the birth of the Annenberg Community Beach House at Santa Monica State Beach in 2009, a laudable partnership between the Annenberg Foundation, California State Parks, and the city of Santa Monica, realized at a cost of approximately $30 million. Today, the site retains only the guest house and the main pool from its original architecture, serving as poignant reminders of its storied past. But the Annenberg Community Beach House stands as a harmonious blend of historical reverence and contemporary function, a public space that not only offers stunning ocean views, recreational facilities, and event spaces, but also symbolizes the evolution of the property from a private enclave to a communal treasure. Indeed, This transformation from a private mansion to a public haven encapsulates the fluid nature of architectural history and cultural memory in Los Angeles. The Annenberg Community Beach House is therefore not just a physical space. It is a narrative of change, preservation, and adaptation, holding within its walls tales of a past era of Hollywood glamour. Our story begins in February 1962, when Hollywood starlet Marilyn Monroe, amid the glitter and tumult of a career that had seen as many highs as lows, sought solace in the form of a Spanish colonial-style house in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. Purchased for $75,000, roughly equivalent to $780,000 today, it was the only property she ever owned independently, speaking to her desire at the time for a personal sanctuary amid the swirling storms of her life. You see, the year 1961 had been particularly trying for Monroe. The luminous, some-like-it hot star's career, although illustrious, was marked by recent professional setbacks and personal struggles, including health issues and a publicized battle with depression. In acquiring the house, Monroe perhaps envisioned a new beginning, or at the very least, a stable retreat from the relentless pressures of Hollywood. And the home, complete with thick walls and a secluded garden, promised a respite from the public gaze. In a move that would prove eerily prophetic, she had the Latin phrase cursum perficio. My journey ends here. Placed above the front door, an echo of her longing for finality and peace. Thus, tragically, Monroe's time in her beloved home was cut short, and she lived there for only 6 months before her untimely death, in this very house, from a drug overdose on the 4th of August 1962. Over the years, the property would see numerous owners and renovations, each altering its character, yet the essence of its tragic former owner lingered. Fast forward to July 2023, and the house, purchased for $8.3 million, despite its storied past, now has new owners who are vigorously fighting to demolish the historic structure to expand their adjacent estate. It's a move that has ushered in massive legal battles and sparked debates over the preservation of Hollywood's tangible links to one of its most iconic stars. In today's episode, we'll first share with you a full tour of the home, complete with a room-by-room analysis. Then, we'll take you through a few other notable homes of Marilyn Monroe's, before wrapping up with a full breakdown on whether the home itself will indeed be demolished, as we describe why Marilyn Monroe's iconic mansion could be demolished. If you were to step into 12305 Fifth Helena Drive in Brentwood, Los Angeles, you would discover a property absolutely oozing cinematic history as the final, and only independently owned, home of Marilyn Monroe. Constructed in 1929 and acquired by Monroe in February 1962, this one-story hacienda-style residence stands as an iconic representation of Spanish colonial revival architecture, exuding rustic allure alongside elegant simplicity. Now, the home occupies an almost 3,000-square-foot lot, secluded at the end of a tranquil cul-de-sac, and the L-shaped layout is defined by its adobe walls and quintessential red tile roofing, elements synonymous with its architectural style. The entrance leads into a welcoming living room with vaulted ceilings crafted from wooden beams and planks. This design choice emphasizes the natural beauty of the materials, fostering a warm, inviting atmosphere, and the room is further enhanced by a fireplace, its surround adorned with tiles personally selected by Monroe during her visits to Mexico. Naturally, Monroe's influence permeates every corner of the residence. Her choice of Mexican furniture, art, and tiles infuses the home with a deep sense of authenticity and personal connection. And these selections resonate particularly in the dining room, repurposed by Monroe as a den, which features built-in cabinetry and a wooden beam that often served as a backdrop for her photographs. Now the kitchen, extensively remodeled during Monroe's residency, melds functionality with flair. Originally equipped with a quaint breakfast nook, the kitchen retains the original positions of key fixtures like the stove and hood, preserving the historical integrity of Monroe's modifications. Going further, the master bedroom, a serene escape offers direct access to the lush backyard and its kidney-shaped swimming pool. This room, equipped with its own fireplace and an exterior door relocated during renovations, provided Monroe with a peaceful retreat. And the house, initially with 2 bedrooms, also included a dedicated telephone room, reflecting the necessities imposed by Monroe's celebrity status during the 1960s. Outside, the grounds feature a distinctive swimming pool and a citrus grove, areas where Monroe enjoyed leisurely afternoons with her poodle. And the pool area, largely unaltered, offers a historical view into her private life at the residence. An additional structure on the property, a small guest house, was under renovation by Monroe at the time of her passing. And this space, now integrated with the main house, has expanded the living area and enhanced the home's overall functionality. And yet, this home was merely the culmination of a life imbued with a highly cultivated sense of style, architectural subtlety, and interior design. In the next chapter, we'll compare and contrast this home, Marilyn's final abode, with the other residences she lived in over the course of her iconic life. Now, Marilyn Monroe's journey was intricately mirrored in the homes she chose, each reflecting the multifaceted layers of her personality and her changing roles. For example, her early housing was humble, echoing her modest beginnings, and as a nascent model and actress in the throes of ambition, Monroe occupied various functional yet unpretentious apartments and hotels across Los Angeles. But with the ascent of her career, her choice in homes began to reflect a maturing palette for style and comfort. By 1952, she had taken residence in a Spanish-style villa, echoing what would become the Spanish-infused style of the final Brentwood home, tucked into the Hollywood Hills. This 3,300-square-foot home radiated charm with its robust wood-beamed ceilings and French doors that led to a terracotta terrace. Briefly shared with Joe DiMaggio during their ephemeral marriage, it presented sweeping views of the canyons and a glimpse into the opulent lifestyle that was unfolding before her. Following her separation from DiMaggio, Monroe transitioned to a penthouse in the Granville Towers in West Hollywood. This example of a 1930s American attempt at French Normandy-style architecture, conceived by Leland Bryant and Samuel Coyne, captured the quintessence of old Hollywood's allure. And the penthouse spanned 2 stories and 2,032 square feet, marked by floor-to-ceiling windows offering expansive cityscapes, a graceful staircase at the entry, vaulted ceilings, and hardwood flooring throughout, complemented by cozy window seats from which she could contemplate Hollywood's luminous expanse. Next, Monroe's stint in New York was marked by a zeal for reinvention and artistic advancement. She resided near the actor's studio to immerse herself in method acting under Lee Strasberg, and also spent intervals in Connecticut, living beside photographer Milton H. Green in a converted farmhouse. These were transformative years, setting the stage for her emergence as a serious actress. But one of her most notable residences before Brentwood was the New York City apartment she shared with playwright Arthur Miller. Positioned on the 13th floor of a pre-war edifice on East 57th Street, the 2,190-square-foot space was both airy and cultivated. And it was within these walls that Miller penned the screenplay for The Misfits, Monroe's last film. In each residence, Monroe favored a minimalist monochromatic design palette, predominantly decorating in shades of white, which lent a serene and refined atmosphere to her surroundings. Her affinity for art was prominently displayed through her decor, with her spaces graced by works from luminaries such as Rodin, Goya, and Picasso. Thus, Marilyn Monroe's residential choices were more than mere places of dwelling. They were profound reflections of her personal journey and evolution, marked by her shifting fortunes and the pivotal transformations in her life and career. Yet by early 1962, her fortunes were indeed down, and she saw this new home as the rightful locale to get back on her feet, despite trouble awaiting, as we'll see in the next chapter. On the evening of the 4th of August 1962, Marilyn Monroe's vibrant life came to a tragic halt within the quiet walls of her Brentwood home at 12305 5th Helena Drive, Los Angeles. Earlier that day, despite her hectic schedule, which included a photo session with Lawrence Schiller and casual conversations with friends over the phone, Marilyn's life seemed as glamorous as always. In the home with her were her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, and publicist, Patricia Newcomb, both of whom were part of her closely knit circle. Tragically, late that night, Eunice Murray discovered Marilyn lifeless, a scene that marked a poignant end to her storied life. Following the icon's untimely departure, her cherished Brentwood residence swiftly became a beacon for curiosity and nostalgia. The house was enveloped in a flurry of interest, receiving at least 6 purchase offers the day after her demise. The Nunez family ultimately won the bidding war in 1963, acquiring not just the house, but also its contents, which they later auctioned off in 1997. And as the 1960s unfolded, the surrounding Brentwood neighborhood where Marilyn had lived began to evolve. Originally a quiet suburban area, it started drawing wealthier residents and celebrities, charmed by its seclusion and closeness to the heart of Los Angeles. The Brentwood Country Mart emerged as a favored haunt, offering quaint shops like a bakery, meat market and deli, adding to the community's charm. San Vicente Boulevard blossomed into a hub of activity with small businesses that enhanced the local vibe. Furthermore, architecturally, Brentwood saw significant transformations during this era. Known for its Spanish colonial, much like Marilyn's last home, Georgian revival, and Tudor homes from the 1930s, the area began embracing the sleek lines of modernist architecture. Enclaves like Crestwood Hills showcased the work of architects such as Richard Neutra and A. Quincy Jones, who designed homes that blended beautifully with the natural surroundings. And as decades passed, Brentwood's allure only grew. The 1990s saw a spike in population and development, with new residential areas springing up around amenities like the Shadow Lakes and Deer Valley golf clubs. Gated communities like Carmel Estates further enhanced its reputation as an exclusive and sought-after locale. As the new millennium unfolded, Brentwood experienced a robust economic surge, characterized by a flurry of activity in both residential and commercial construction. In 2008, the opening of the streets of Brentwood further enhanced the area's appeal, introducing an outdoor lifestyle center that provided upscale shopping and dining experiences tailored to the affluent locals. The economic vitality of the area continued to strengthen throughout the 2010s, with housing developments frequently showcasing properties priced from the mid-500,000s to over $1 million, often equipped with extensive upgrades. And architectural innovation remained a cornerstone of Brentwood's appeal. The neighborhood boasted several modernist gems, such as the Warwick Evans House, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright Jr., and the Barrington Residence, a pinnacle of ultra-modern architecture that redefined luxury. These homes, typically secluded behind lush hedges and secure gates, offered the privacy and exclusivity demanded by Brentwood's affluent residents. Yet, beneath this veneer of moving from strength to strength as one of Los Angeles' most sought-after neighborhoods, in the last decade, Brentwood has played host to one of the most ferocious historical preservation battles in LA's history over the very Marilyn Monroe Brentwood mansion we've been discussing. Decades after the death of Marilyn Monroe, the home she once owned in Brentwood has ascended to a position of notable historical importance. A symbol of the Hollywood legend's personal life and status, this property recently became the center of a high-profile preservation debate. In 2017, Glory of the Snow, an LLC managed by Dan Lucas and Anne Germain, acquired the residence for $7.25 million. But by 2023, the ownership transitioned to a trust that sought to demolish the house, triggering a passionate public backlash and efforts to safeguard the site. Yet, the response from the Los Angeles City Council was quick and forceful. Tracy Park, representing Brentwood in the city's 11th district, led the charge to preserve Monroe's former residence. and Park proposed recognizing the house as a historic cultural monument, an example of its status as Monroe's final home and the sole property she owned. Then, this proposal received backing from both the City Council's Planning and Land Use Management Committee and the Cultural Heritage Commission. Additionally, the campaign to save Monroe's house resonated widely, attracting the support of preservationists, historians, and legions of her fans. Influential groups like the Los Angeles Conservancy emphasized the building's architectural and cultural value, pointing out that it offered a rare insight into the life of one of Hollywood's most timeless figures. Despite the fervent public support, the new owners, Brynner Milstein and Roy Bank, who purchased the estate for $8.35 million, are adamant about demolishing it. They contend that significant renovations have stripped the residents of any direct links to Monroe, and they raise concerns about the potential increase in visitor traffic, arguing that the landmark designation process favored by the city was flawed and unconstitutional. Thus, a contentious legal battle has ensued between the city and the property owners. Milstein and Bank accused city officials of opaque dealings intended to ensure the property's landmark status, and they allege that the designation was rushed, claiming that the city had colluded with external entities to manipulate the outcome in favor of preservation. Despite these objections, on the 26th of June 2024, the Los Angeles City Council cast a resounding vote. With unanimity, council members declared Monroe's last residence a historic cultural monument. The vote, 12-0 in favor, not only underscored the property's cultural and historical significance, but also placed it among the city's protected sites, a list that encompasses around 1,300 locations, including roughly 444 private residences. In her remarks, Councilmember Tracy Park highlighted the significance of Monroe's legacy, particularly noting the scarcity of historical designations in Los Angeles connected to women's contributions. This designation, she argued, was not merely about preserving a structure, but also about honoring the enduring influence of women in shaping the cultural landscape of the city. Now, this decision triggers a stringent review process for any future attempts to alter or demolish the property, effectively shielding it from immediate developmental pressures. Nonetheless, the contention surrounding the house is far from resolved. Milstein and Bank are pushing forward with their legal challenge against the city's decision. A trial-setting conference has been scheduled for the 13th of August 2024, which will further address the complexities of the lawsuit. As this legal confrontation unfolds, the fate of Monroe's Brentwood home hangs in the balance, with its potential demolition stirring a broader discourse on the value of preserving cultural heritage versus the rights of property owners, especially when the property in question was once home to an iconic figure like Marilyn Monroe. At one point in time, Pickfair stood as the epitome of Hollywood glamour and opulence. Nestled in the heart of Beverly Hills, California, the mansion was more than a home. It was a cultural phenomenon created by film legends Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. With its sprawling grounds, lavish interiors, and a guest list that read like a who's who of the 20th century, Pickfair was Hollywood's unofficial royal palace. But this mansion, once a vibrant hub for the entertainment industry's elite, met an unfortunate end. In 1990, new owners demolished much of the estate, leaving the public and even Hollywood insiders astonished and heartbroken. In today's video at Old Money Mansions, join us as we take you back in time to the absolute zenith of Hollywood glamour during the Golden Age, only to watch how such a lovely home met its unfortunate end as we describe why Hollywood's most opulent mansion was demolished. In the early years of the 1920s, Hollywood had yet to evolve into the sprawling capital of stardom that we recognize today. But it was undeniably on an accelerated trajectory toward that future. Two luminaries, Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, stood at the vanguard, shaping not merely the cinematic landscape, but also defining a lavish way of life that set a benchmark for glamour. Pickford, known as the Queen of the Movies, and Fairbanks, aka the King of Hollywood, were more than just actors. They were co-founders of United Artists, a studio that provided them unparalleled creative control. In fact, Their status was such that they became the very first celebrities to leave their handprints in the cement at Grauman's Chinese Theatre, forever imprinting, literally, their significance on Hollywood's history. Indeed, they transcended mere fame to become cultural icons, influencing fashion, social norms, and even politics of their day. Their films broke box office records, and their public appearances drew crowds that numbered in the thousands. Furthermore, their life seemed almost scripted, like one of their movies, filled to the brim with drama, romance, and opulence. In order to get the full picture of what we mean, just envision a 15-acre oasis in Beverly Hills, California, where the glow of celebrity radiance was as common as the palm trees that framed the hill line. This sumptuous estate was christened Pickfair, a name derived from the fusion of Pickford and Fairbanks, Hollywood's first power couple, and thus such was their renown that their last names combined to brand their extravagant dwelling. Pickfair was much more than just a celebrity home. It was a symbol, an emblem of Hollywood's burgeoning golden age. Now, to materialize their aspiration for a residence that would captivate the collective imagination, Pickford and Fairbanks enlisted Wallace Neff, an architect celebrated for his innovative Californian designs. Prior to Pickfair, Neff had already made a name for himself with various residential masterpieces like the O'Neill House, also in Beverly Hills, and the Edwin D. Neff House in San Marino, among others, each a showcase of his unique aesthetic that combined Spanish colonial and Mediterranean elements. So, for Pickford, Neff yet again would work his magic to transform an unassuming Spanish colonial revival dwelling into an awe-inspiring mansion filled with grandeur. The home's interior was a study in sophistication, featuring exquisite leaded glass windows, elaborate parquet flooring, and celestial-themed murals adorning the ceilings. Structurally, two elegant wings framed the mansion, complemented by an L-shaped porch and a tasteful copper roof, detailed with ornate ironwork. But Pickfair was, additionally, a realm of lavishness and innovation. Beyond the expected amenities like stables and tennis courts were some unexpected delights: a Western saloon and what was considered the first in-ground pool in Los Angeles. Douglas Fairbanks reportedly even had an underground jogging track for his more private physical endeavors. And Mary Pickford seized the opportunity this paradise provided to conduct a pioneering bikini photoshoot on the premises in 1922. Now, the living room served as the opulent core of the household, adorned with 18th century art and antiques. Items from the collections of Countess Rodesno and Lord Leverhulme added to the grandeur, along with Louis XVI furniture. And Mary Pickford herself seemed to personify tranquility as she sat on a couch covered in sumptuous Chinese damask silk. Their collective interest in international culture also turned their mansion into a museum filled with Asian treasures, such as intricately carved rhinoceros tusks and a silver urn from the King of Siam. And the aesthetic of the mansion remained an ever-evolving canvas, meticulously curated by America's first professional decorator, Elsie de Wolfe, and design virtuoso Tony Duquette. The exterior was equally enchanting. Adorning the property were flourishing orchards and intricately landscaped gardens, a hallmark of opulent Hollywood estates in the 1920s. Cypress and olive trees dotted the landscape, while fragrant blooms of lavender and jasmine infused the air with their intoxicating scent. Fountains and sculptures provided not only visual grandeur, but also an aura of tranquility that was designed to transport visitors into a realm of fantastical beauty. And then, in 1949, against this backdrop of visual and sensory magnificence, Pickford and Fairbanks celebrated yet another pivotal moment in their legendary lives: their wedding. An affair of extraordinary glamour, it was an event befitting Hollywood royalty. The guest list was an assemblage of the era's most luminary figures, including Charlie Chaplin, the Barrymores, and other silver screen legends. Therefore, the ceremony was more than an exchange of vows. It was a celebration that epitomized the very essence of Hollywood sophistication and artistry. In this manner, Pickfair was never a static entity, but rather an evolving symphony of style and taste. However, their wedding was just the tip of the iceberg in a long history of star-studded moments at Pickfair, and there was so much more to come as Hollywood royalty descended on this modern palace-like abode. Indeed, in the roaring 20s, the epicenter of Hollywood's effervescent social scene was unquestionably the Pickfair mansion. Likened to America's Buckingham Palace by none other than Lord Mountbatten, Pickfair transcended being merely a residence. It was a cultural phenomenon. As Beverly Hills Mayor Will Rogers humorously noted, his principal task was essentially directing people to Mary Pickford's house. Now, what made Pickfair an irresistible draw wasn't solely its architectural splendor or its aesthetic grandeur, but its role as a social vortex that attracted a dazzling array of talents and intellects. The estate's dinner parties were the stuff of legend, boasting an enviable guest roster that ranged from cinematic giants like Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd to monumental personalities like Albert Einstein and President Franklin D. Roosevelt. When you walked through the grand entryway, you weren't just stepping into a house, you were entering a circle of influence that extended well beyond the film reels. And in the midst of laughter echoing through gilded halls and crystal glasses clinking in festive toasts, there was an undeniable energy in the air. This was the pulse of a new, burgeoning America, a nation being shaped and represented by Hollywood glamour epitomized by Pickfair. An invitation to this hallowed space was more than just a social courtesy. It was a confirmation that you had earned your place among the influential elite. Yet, like all things subject to the fickleness of time and fortune, the allure of Pickfair would begin to diminish as the 1930s approached. In fact, the decline paralleled the waning film careers of Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. Their once idyllic love story, which had been a cornerstone of Hollywood mythology, eventually disintegrated with their divorce in January 1936, and what had once been a haven for the cultural elite morphed into a haunting relic of a dissolved union. This marital dissolution marked not just the end of a relationship, but signaled the mansion's transition from social hub to a muted echo of its former glory. Though the architecture remained, the vibrant social life that once pulsated through its rooms became a fading memory. While Mary Pickford continued to inhabit the estate with her third husband, Charles "Buddy" Rogers, the vibrancy and social magnetism of Pickfair under her previous marriage never resurfaced. Thus, as the 1930s drew to a close, a palpable stillness replaced the erstwhile buzz of extravagant social gatherings at Pickfair Mansion. The subsequent 1940s saw the iconic estate transform into a haven of solitude for Mary Pickford, who deliberately withdrew from public life following her divorce from Douglas Fairbanks. This transformation was more than a personal decision. It served as a reflective lens, capturing the fading luminance of Hollywood's golden age. Therefore, this period of seclusion was emblematic of more extensive shifts within Hollywood itself. Tinseltown's landscape was morphing. The star system that once reigned supreme was gradually yielding to fresh faces and emerging styles. Mary Pickford, one of the last enduring symbols of the past era, found herself increasingly adrift from a Hollywood undergoing dynamic transformation in the 1950s. The mansion underwent nuanced but meaningful renovations, striking a judicious balance between historic preservation and modern adaptation. Indeed, despite her seclusion, Mary Pickford discerned the imperative to bring her cherished home into a new age. It was as if she aimed to keep the mansion's spirit intact, even as she permitted it the room to evolve and adapt to a changing world. However, little did she know that the next chapter in the Pickfair saga would experience even more architectural drama and heartache, even as the mansion had steadfastly attempted to stay with the times. As the 1960s dawned, Pickfair Mansion found itself navigating the same uncertain waters that were sweeping through Hollywood at large. This period heralded a new chapter of ownership, as Mary Pickford and her third spouse, Buddy Rogers, distanced themselves from Hollywood's buzzing epicenter. The estate's cultural resonance dwindled, but didn't entirely fade away. The 1970s further accelerated the mansion's descent, paralleling the diminishing aura that had once surrounded it. With Mary Pickford's passing in 1979, Pickfair became vacant, transforming into a mute emblem of its past grandeur. The quietude that enveloped the mansion echoed far and wide, resonating through a film industry that had long shifted its focus elsewhere. Sadly, Pickfair was no longer Hollywood's vibrant core. It had become a muted observer to its own rich history. During these years, Pickfair also became the focal point of public auctions, magnetizing a motley crowd of inquisitive spectators, history enthusiasts, and memorabilia collectors. These auctions served as a closing chapter to the era that Pickford personified, signaling the conclusion of Hollywood's most golden epoch. However, surprisingly, the 80s ushered in a renewal, initiated by the acquisition of the mansion by Los Angeles Lakers owner Jerry Buss for a sum of $5.4 million, or roughly equivalent to $20 million today. Initially viewed as merely a savvy real estate investment, the estate soon unveiled its historical weight to its new proprietor. Faced with a dilemma, either demolish the dilapidated structure for fiscal efficiency or invest in its historical restoration, Buss opted for the latter. Throughout the decade, the Buss family capitalized on Pickfair's storied legacy, hosting profitable fundraisers and infusing the estate with a renewed sense of purpose and vitality. For Jerry Buss, and subsequently his daughter Jeannie, the intrinsic value of Pickfair came into sharp focus upon discovering Mary Pickford's Oscar still in place, a mute yet compelling homage to the home's filmic heritage. More than any other element, this unearthing highlighted the estate's invaluable position in the annals of Hollywood history. However, even finding relics such as one of the first Oscar trophies couldn't stop what would happen next. In 1988, the Pickfair estate, a historical nexus of Hollywood glamour, underwent another change of ownership. The new custodians were Israeli tycoon Meshulam Riklis and his spouse, American actress and singer Pia Zadora. Acquiring the estate for $6.7 million, their purchase immediately set off warning signals in the Hollywood circuit and far beyond. Initial declarations about forthcoming renovations quickly yielded to the grim realization that the couple had divergent intentions for the iconic property, and on the 22nd of April 1990 emerged as a date of communal grief for both Hollywood and its chroniclers. On this day, much of the Pickfair mansion was razed, igniting a vehement public backlash. Observers mourned the demolition of a monumental building that had once housed Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and other iconic personas. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. himself publicly expressed his consternation, asking why the couple would purchase the mansion just to dismantle it. Initially, Pia Zadora cited the mansion's dilapidated condition and termite infestation as the main reasons for its destruction. Yet years later, she would divulge an additional rationale, the belief that the estate was haunted. In her defense, the haunting rumors around Pickfair ironically dated back to its original owners themselves, Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. The couple reportedly saw the spirit of a female servant multiple times during their time living in the house. Even after Pickford's death, her second husband, Buddy Rogers, claimed to have seen the ghost of a woman in white, whom he believed to be his wife. And according to Pia Zadora, by the time they had arrived, her family experienced strange occurrences, such as Pia's young daughter screaming at night, claiming that a woman was staring at her in the bedroom. Thus, the paranormal activity at Pickfair was said to have played a significant role in the family's decision to level the prominent piece of Hollywood history. Regardless of the actual motives, the leveling of Pickfair signified a jarring detachment from Hollywood's history, effectively cutting off an invaluable cultural and historical artery. Soon enough, the parcel of land that once bore a historical emblem sprouted a new Venetian-style edifice, its modern architecture standing in conspicuous contrast to the original Pickfair's historical allure. While the demolition had already fomented discussions about preservation versus modernization, this newly constructed mansion seemed to amplify those tensions conspicuously. Now serving as a venue for Unicom Global's various professional activities, the new structure embodies a tension between past and present. Despite its state-of-the-art amenities like a gym and disco room, it remains perpetually under the spectral influence of its storied predecessor. Vestiges of the original, such as the gates, kidney-shaped pool, and a two-bedroom guest wing, linger as eloquent reminders of an earlier epoch, subtly challenging the mansion's contemporary grandeur. Therefore, although the original Pickfair no longer exists, its cultural imprint upon Hollywood's collective memory remains deeply etched. Conversations initiated by its destruction continue to echo, compelling us to grapple with intricate dilemmas surrounding the valuation of history versus advancement. Take a second and imagine you've been placed in a time machine and whisked away to live the sumptuous life of an A-list star during Golden Era Hollywood. As you decide how to spend your Saturday night in Tinseltown with your luxury-loving co-stars, you receive an invite to meet up with a few actors and actresses at Hollywood's most luxurious hangout, the Garden of Allah Hotel. And when you arrive, you are instantly captivated by the sprawling Moorish architecture and lush tropical gardens that seem more like a mirage than reality in the Los Angeles heat. Stepping into the lobby, the scene is alive with the glamorous elite. There's legendary leading man Humphrey Bogart sharing a joke with the ever-charismatic Errol Flynn, both leaning casually against the grand piano. Nearby, Marlene Dietrich and Greta Garbo engage in a deep conversation, their legendary faces half hidden in the dim, sultry lighting. The air is thick with the fragrance of cigarette smoke mingled with expensive perfumes as jazz music softly serenades the crowd of glittering stars. Yet behind this luminous display of Hollywood's finest hour, the aura of a heartbreaking fate lingers. This vibrant sanctuary, alive with the spirit of an era that created modern celebrity, was destined to get demolished. The walls that harbored secrets, dreams, and the unrestrained joy of icons would soon be torn down, replaced by the cold anonymity of a commercial complex. In today's episode, we'll explain the history of the legendary Garden of Allah and how its destruction was not just the end of a pricey hotel, but a poignant farewell to a golden age as we describe why Hollywood's swankiest hotel was demolished. In 1927, the Garden of Allah Hotel swung open its doors and strutted onto the Hollywood scene like a starlet ready for her close-up. Originally the estate of silent film siren Alla Nazimova, this Sunset Boulevard haunt quickly morphed into a hotbed of glitz, glamour, and the occasional scandal, embodying the essence of Hollywood's golden age. And the hotel's Spanish-style villas, tucked amidst lush, whispering gardens and an infamous black C-shaped pool, were more than mere lodging. They were a backdrop to the lives of the stars who frequented them. Thus, from its inception, the Garden of Allah was a bastion of exclusivity, offering the crème de la crème of Hollywood's elite a secluded paradise where they could frolic away from the flashbulbs of the press. Now, with its reputation for discretion and opulence, the hotel soon became a pilgrimage site for anyone who was or aspired to be anyone in Tinseltown. And the management knew the assignment: keep the stars happy and the paparazzi guessing. Indeed, this secret source of privacy mixed with luxury ensured that a night at the Garden of Allah wasn't just a stay, it was a statement. Furthermore, the hotel's guest list read like a who's who of 20th century icons. For example, F. Scott Fitzgerald, that sharp chronicler of American excess, camped out here during his Hollywood years, penning the drafts of what would be his final opus, The Last Tycoon. And Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling Aussie with a penchant for mischief, turned the hotel into his personal playground, his antics becoming as legendary as his films. Whether by the bar or by the pool, Flynn's magnetism ensured there was never a dull moment around him. But the hotel's allure wasn't lost on the likes of Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall either. Their storied romance added a dash of sweet to the cocktail of personalities that frequented the garden. The literary set found a haven here too, with Dorothy Parker and Robert Benchley spearheading an Algonquin Round Table West, where wit was the currency and laughter a given. Yet it wasn't just the literary and film elite who were drawn to the garden's enchanted environs. Musical maestros like Igor Stravinsky composed timeless pieces within its walls, while George Gershwin could be found tickling the ivories, serenading an impromptu gathering of Hollywood royalty in the lobby. Therefore, the Garden of Allah wasn't merely a hotel, it was a microcosm of Hollywood's most golden era. Under its roofs and amongst its gardens, the lines between reality and performance blurred as stars from across the art spectrum mingled, creating a melting pot of creativity. As the lights finally dimmed on the Garden of Allah and its original building was demolished, its legacy was ironically cemented in the annals of Hollywood history. Far from being just another hotel, it had served as a cultural crucible, a nexus for the era's titans, and a birthplace for the tales and scandals destined for the silver screen's lore. For, as golden-era Hollywood gossip columnist Sheila Graham put it, "There is no place for a Garden of Allah that for one brief moment was Camelot. It was inevitable that Hollywood as we knew it and its satellite, Allah's Garden, should disappear together. How exactly did this legendary locale get its start in early Hollywood, similar to the stars it would play host to for decades? To get our answer, we'll have to roll back to the turn of the century, in the next chapter. The Garden of Allah Hotel, a name that twinkles with the same glamour as the Hollywood Walk of Fame, began its illustrious journey in the early 1910s, not as a hotel, but as a private estate dubbed Havenhurst. Crafted by the enterprising William H. Hay in 1913, this 2.5-acre slice of heaven at 8152 Sunset Boulevard was destined for stardom. By 1918, Alla Nazimova, a silent film star with the dramatic chops and violet eyes to match, had leased the estate, succumbing to its charms. And by the next year, she couldn't resist. She bought it outright. With a visionary's zeal, Nazimova poured a cool $65,000, equal to around $1.1 million today, into revamps, shaping her new domain into a salute to her Crimean roots, with a Black Sea-shaped swimming pool and lush, manicured landscapes. Nazimova, ever the clever hostess, then christened her revamped abode the Garden of Allah, spelled like her first name, without the letter H at the end, winking at her own name and nodding to Robert S. Hitchens' novel The Garden of Allah. And her home quickly became a magnet for Hollywood's elite, known for its heady artistic salons that attracted a colourful tapestry of guests, many from the lesbian community, buzzing with discussions on literature, philosophy, and the arts. However, as the glitter of the 1920s began to dim, so did Nazimova's financial stability. Her cinematic ventures had not paid off, leaving her cradling a wilting purse. It was then that the whispers of a new venture reached her ears. Why not turn this star-studded sanctuary into a hotel? Intrigued and desperate, Nazimova let the idea bloom into a grand plan. With the pomp of a true cinema queen, she transformed her estate in 1926, commissioning the aid of architect Frank L. Moline, whose name was already etched on some of LA's finest buildings. Together, they dreamed up the Garden of Allah Hotel, envisioning a cluster of 25 luxury Spanish Moorish villas nestled among the gardens, each a private retreat with the sumptuous allure of old Hollywood. Moline's master plan was a symphony of aesthetics and function. The famous pool retained its central cameo, around which the new villas were carefully placed to foster a sense of secluded splendor. And each villa was a fortress of privacy, with teak floors, heavy Spanish furniture, and modern amenities that included kitchenettes and bathrooms, perfect for the who's who of Tinseltown craving discreet luxury. The transformation was nothing short of a scene from a high-budget film. Construction crews became unsung heroes, working diligently through 1926, ensuring that Moline's vision, complete with the preservation of grand old trees and the integration of new lavish structures, was realized without a hitch. And the hotel's grand opening on the 9th of January 1927 was an affair to remember, an 18-hour gala that saw the creme de la creme of Hollywood descend upon the Garden of Allah. As night cloaked the city, the estate burst into a kaleidoscope of lights, enchanting every onlooker and promising many starlit nights to come. Then, subsequent tweaks and tunes were made to perfect the guest experience. The on-site restaurant transformed to make room for more guest spaces, and a lively bar by the pool became the new hub for the glitterati. Amidst the advent of talkies, some villas were even soundproofed, accommodating the creative sanctuaries needed by the era's film icons. By 1930, as the garden gracefully evolved under new ownership, it subtly changed its moniker by adding an H to become the Garden of Allah Hotel, a move that delicately shifted its legacy from its founder's personal tribute to a standalone symbol of Hollywood's golden era. Therefore, although the 1920s hotel was a beacon of Hollywood luxury, its best days were yet to come, as LA entered its golden era. If Golden Era Hollywood's luxurious epoch could be distilled into one beguiling locale, it could arguably be the Garden of Allah Hotel. Throughout the 1930s, this charming oasis not only provided a sumptuous backdrop for Tinseltown's glitterati, but also functioned as the social nucleus of a burgeoning film industry. Located conveniently near the major studios, yet securely tucked away behind lush greenery, the garden offered a sanctuary where luminaries could cavort with abandon under the Southern California sun. In an era shadowed by the Great Depression, the hotel emerged as a glamorous enclave where hedonism was not just a pastime, but a fine art. The verdant grounds and quaint villas of the garden became scenes of storied soirees and furtive romances. Imagine the tableau: Humphrey Bogart with a cigarette dangling from his lips, Errol Flynn's rakish grin lighting up the garden paths, and Greta Garbo's enigmatic presence by the infamous pool, a magnet for spontaneous revelry. And this iconic watering hole wasn't merely a playground for movie stars. It was a crucible of creative alchemy. Here, the wits of New York's Algonquin Round Table, led by the sharp-tongued Dorothy Parker and the ever-droll Robert Benchley, found a West Coast roost. And the literary elite's infusion into the hotel's fabric elevated its prestige, making it a pulsating bridge between East Coast intellectualism and Hollywood's burgeoning glamour. So, what was it about the garden that made it such fertile ground for creativity? Perhaps it was the informal mingling of minds by the poolside, where composers like Igor Stravinsky could exchange notes with screen sirens, or in the bar where a struggling F. Scott Fitzgerald might find inspiration for his next screenplay amidst the clink of glasses. Furthermore, as the world spun into the 1940s, engulfed by the turmoil of World War II, the garden's allure did not wane, unlike many places in America. Instead, it adapted, becoming a beacon for those in the throes of wartime anxiety. Gloria Stewart, of later Titanic fame, epitomized this era, turning her residence into a culinary haven where scarcity was defied with lavish dinner parties that often morphed into fervent brainstorming sessions. These gatherings, rich with the aroma of rationed delights, sowed the seeds of numerous Hollywood classics. Therefore, in Golden Era Hollywood, this A-list haven wasn't just a hotel, it was a microcosm of the industry itself. Yet, in the post-war years, as America changed rapidly from depression to optimism and the baby boom generation began, the Garden of Allah began to be seen as old hat, and trouble was afoot. The Garden of Allah Hotel, a once sparkling jewel in Hollywood's crown, faced its twilight years in the 1950s with the same dramatic flair with which it had lived its golden days. Once the heartbeat of Hollywood's social whirl, the garden began to wilt under the weight of a changing industry and shifting cultural mores. Specifically, the allure of this storied sanctuary diminished as the glitterati who once sought its luxurious anonymity began putting down roots in the lush enclaves of Beverly Hills and beyond, eschewing temporary hotel stays for more permanent digs. Concurrently, the rise of sleek modern hotels with all the latest conveniences lured away those who might once have revelled in the garden's old-world charm, and the once irresistible magnet for celebrities and creative mavericks was finding itself edged out by the next generation of accommodations. Adding to its challenges, the social fabric of Hollywood itself was transforming. The 1950s were marred by the chill of the Red Scare, casting a shadow over the garden's freewheeling ethos. Where once the air was thick with the promise of secrets and scandal, qualities that had burnished its legend, there now hovered a palpable tension, a sense of watchful eyes and whispered accusations. And the once celebrated revelries that defined the garden's character became liabilities, maligned by a society increasingly buttoned up and conservative. Efforts to revitalize the Garden of Allah spluttered like a fading starlet's comeback attempt. Renovations and management shake-ups attempted to reclaim the lost mystique, but fell short, and ownership shuffled through hopeful hands, each set trying to capture the elusive magic that had defined the hotel's better days. By 1957, when the property passed to Morris Markowitz and Isidore Rosanus for a mere $500,000, the writing was on the proverbial wall, and Rosanus's untimely demise 5 months later only hastened the inevitable. The final nail in the coffin was hammered in April 1959, when Bart Lytton of Lytton Savings and Loan acquired the garden, not to restore it but to raise it. His vision was a stark departure from the past, a modern bank building to house his financial empire, a symbol of progress indifferent to the nostalgic cries of Hollywood's old guard. As news of the impending demolition spread, a collective lament rose from the Hollywood community. Time magazine captured the sentiment in a poignant piece, reminiscing about the days when the town still managed to be wacky in the grand manner. Thus, in August of 1959, the garden threw open its doors one last time for a grand farewell party, a swan song that drew over 1,000 mourners. They came to pay homage to the spirit of Alla Nazimova, the visionary founder, screening her film Salome as a tribute amidst the garden's fading echoes. But what followed was a macabre auction, where bits and pieces of Hollywood history were parceled out to the highest bidder. From opulent furnishings to kitschy keepsakes, each item was a tangible piece of the grand narrative that the Garden of Allah had authored over the decades. As the wrecking balls tore through the structure, a chapter closed not just on a building but on an epoch. The landscape of Hollywood was irrevocably altered, its once vibrant heart now a casualty of progress and changing tastes. In 1960, the iconic Garden of Allah Hotel gave way to the modern silhouette of the Lytton Savings Building, marking a significant transformation along the Sunset Boulevard skyline. Spearheaded by Bart Lytton, president of Lytton Savings and Loan, this new development was designed by architect Kurt Meyer, whose vision embodied the mid-century modern ethos of clean lines and functional aesthetics. Inside, the space was bathed in natural light, creating an inviting atmosphere for bank customers and a work-friendly environment for its staff. By 1962, the adjacent Lytton Center was completed, introducing a museum and auditorium that expanded the building's role from a financial hub to a cultural nexus within the community. As the decades unfolded, the Lytton Savings Building, along with its Lytton Center of the Visual Arts, became pillars of the local arts scene. The center's museum hosted a kaleidoscope of exhibitions, attracting art lovers and artists alike, showcasing works ranging from modern sculptures to historical paintings. Meanwhile, its auditorium became a favored venue for a variety of community events, from thought-provoking lectures to vibrant performances, echoing the creative spirit once nurtured by its predecessor, the Garden of Allah. Despite its cultural contributions, the fortunes of Lytton Savings were not to last. By 1968, the bank succumbed to bankruptcy, heralding yet another evolution of this iconic site, and the building's next incarnation was less illustrious, a strip mall. As the 21st century dawned, the narrative of the site took another dramatic turn. The early 2010s brought proposals for a new mixed-use development by none other than the celebrated architect Frank Gehry. This project, while promising revitalization and urban renewal, sparked a contentious debate among preservationists and developers. The former saw the Lytton Savings Building as an irreplaceable artifact of architectural history, while the latter argued for the necessity of modernization and increased housing density in the burgeoning city. Simultaneously recognized for its architectural significance, the site itself was designated as a Los Angeles Historic Cultural Monument in 2016, a nod to its storied past and enduring presence on Sunset Boulevard. But, in a twist befitting the cinematic history it harbors, the site, formerly known as the Garden of Allah Hotel and later the Lytton Savings Building, has encountered yet another plot twist in its ongoing narrative. In April 2021, the demolition of the Lytton Savings Building cleared the stage for a new act, the proposed Gehry development. However, contrary to previous expectations that this project would swiftly rise from the rubble, the grand designs have been stalled and the land has taken an unexpected turn back onto the real estate market. As of today, the lot at 8150 Sunset Boulevard, once the home of the legendary Garden of Allah, stands vacant, its future uncertain. And despite the current state of limbo, the spirit of the site's storied past continues to resonate with those who cherish Hollywood's golden era. Efforts to honor the legacy of the Garden of Allah are ongoing, with proposals to integrate elements of its glamorous history into any future development. The year is 2022, and the Brentwood, Los Angeles abode that legendary actress Betty White called home for 50 years is set to be demolished. As the news reverberates through the hearts of her countless admirers, the walls of this cherished building, ones that played witness to half a century of Hollywood history, are brought down, symbolizing the fleeting nature of architectural preservation in Tinseltown. Purchased by White and her husband Alan Ludden in 1968, this was more than a residence. Indeed, it was a sanctuary of memories, a bastion of the beloved star's personal and professional life. In today's episode, we will share the full tale of Betty White's life here, from her lovely days spent taking care of her beloved animals to the battle to save the building she held so dear, as we describe why Betty White's most beloved mansion was demolished. Betty White's Brentwood home, a colonial-style gem in one of Los Angeles's most coveted enclaves, was where the beloved actress, together with her husband, game show host Alan Ludden, called home for a half-century, starting in the 1960s. Now spanning 3,000 square feet, the home, built in the 1950s, occupies a generous 3/4 of an acre, a delightful mix of expansive serenity and seclusion. And the living room, a nucleus of the home's charm, was where Betty's natural flair for hosting shone. This space, a blend of understated elegance and warmth, invited both lively gatherings and quiet evenings with her beloved dogs. Plush sofas and armchairs, arranged around a grand fireplace, created an atmosphere that was both sophisticated and inviting. And the room's warm, neutral palette, soft creams and earthy tones, was a canvas for the abundant natural light streaming through large windows, with the intricate wood paneling basked in that sunlight, adding a layer of subtle grandeur. Now in the kitchen, a blend of practicality and style was evident, reflecting a space where Betty, renowned more for her wit than her culinary prowess, found joy in the simple rituals of tea-making and cookie-baking. The kitchen's classic white cabinetry, paired with a substantial central island, provided a functional yet cozy spot for casual meals or spontaneous gatherings. And above the island, copper pots and pans dangled with rustic charm, a nod to timeless design. Indeed, it was less about the act of cooking and more about the creation of memories, laughter echoing, the scent of baked goods wafting, and a sense of home permeating the space. Now the bedrooms were true personal retreats, each echoing Betty's penchant for comfort and individuality. The master suite, a tranquil hideaway, featured soft pastel walls and a plush king-sized bed draped in luxurious linens. Certainly, personal touches were everywhere. Family photos, career mementos, and a warmth that felt lived in rather than curated. The adjoining bathroom, with its clawfoot tub and vintage fixtures, offered a spa-like escape imbued with old-world charm. And Betty's private sanctuaries, including her study and a cozy reading nook, were filled with books and memorabilia that documented a life well lived. Built-in bookshelves groaned under the weight of literary treasures and glittering awards, while a comfy armchair by the window provided the perfect perch for a quiet afternoon of reading or simply soaking in the view of the lush gardens outside. Speaking of the gardens, the outdoor space was perhaps one of the most enchanting aspects of the Brentwood estate. A flat, grassy lawn stretched out, inviting leisurely outdoor activities, while a stone patio encircled a sparkling swimming pool, perfect for both entertaining and serene reflection. This outdoor haven undoubtedly brought joy to White, whose affection for animals and nature was well known. Thus, hidden behind secure gates, the property offered a secluded respite, ideal for someone like White, who sought tranquility away from the frenetic pace of Hollywood. In the next chapter, we'll feature why Betty White and her husband, at this point in their lives, chose this exactly idyllic locale to spend 50 years in. In the swinging 1960s, Betty White was already a household name, having made her mark on television both in front of and behind the camera. And by then, White was no longer just a rising star, but an established force who had been captivating audiences since the late 1930s. Her career, which began with radio performances, took a major leap in 1949 when she co-hosted Hollywood on television. This early exposure to live TV laid the groundwork for White to become one of the first women to produce a sitcom, Life with Elizabeth, in the early 1950s. Thus, she wasn't just breaking glass ceilings, she was practically redesigning the roof. Through the 1950s and into the early 1960s, White continued to make her presence felt across the television landscape. Whether on game shows like Password and Match Game, where her sharp wit and undeniable charm stole the show, or in her lead role on the sitcom Date with the Angels, White was the embodiment of television's golden age. By the mid-60s, she had become a staple on the game show circuit, lighting up screens with her quick humor and playful spirit on programs like What's My Line and To Tell the Truth. But White was more than just a talented entertainer. She was also a vocal advocate for social progress, championing causes like racial equality and gay rights at a time when such stances were far from mainstream. Then, the year 1968 marked a pivotal moment in White's personal life when she and her husband, Alan Ludden, purchased a home in Brentwood, Los Angeles. This wasn't just a real estate transaction. It was the start of a new chapter in White's life, as the Brentwood home would become her sanctuary for decades. You see, Brentwood in the mid-20th century was more than just another neighborhood. It was the chosen retreat for Hollywood's elite. As the 1950s and 60s unfolded, Brentwood transformed into a stylish enclave, attracting the industry's brightest stars with its blend of historical charm and modern architectural marvels. And this shift was emblematic of Southern California's broader suburban boom as the region became synonymous with innovation, creativity, and the emerging mid-century modern aesthetic. Brentwood wasn't merely keeping up with the mid-century modern movement, it was setting the pace. Architects like A. Quincy Jones and Whitney R. Smith were pivotal figures in this movement, particularly with their work on the Crestwood Hills project in Brentwood, a visionary community designed by the Mutual Housing Association to provide affordable, modern homes for young families. The project therefore became a landmark in post-war architecture, with homes characterized by concrete block foundations, redwood siding, and expansive glass windows that blurred the line between indoor and outdoor living. And, as Brentwood's architectural identity took shape, so too did its social fabric. Hollywood's biggest names began to flock to the area, drawn by the serene privacy that Brentwood offered, an idyllic escape from the fast-paced, spotlight-filled world of Los Angeles. This influx of stars added a touch of glamour to Brentwood, elevating it to the status of a coveted address among the entertainment industry's elite. Legends like Marilyn Monroe and Joan Crawford found refuge in Brentwood, with Monroe's home in particular achieving iconic status. Consequently, Betty White's move to Brentwood in 1968 with her husband Alan Ludden encapsulates this perfect blend of Hollywood glamour and peaceful residential living. Their Brentwood mansion wasn't just a place to reside, it was a retreat, a sanctuary where White could escape the limelight while remaining within arm's reach of the industry that had defined her illustrious career. Moving forward, let's dive a bit deeper into what day-to-day life as a star for Betty would have been like in this home. Betty White's career reached a dazzling peak with her unforgettable portrayal of Sue Ann Nivens on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. With a smirk as sharp as her wit, White breathed life into the happy homemaker, a character whose mix of sweetness and sass earned her 2 consecutive Emmy Awards in 1975 and 1976. Therefore, these years cemented White's reputation not just as a comedic genius, but as an actress with an uncanny ability to weave depth into even the most seemingly one-dimensional roles. And this success didn't just open doors, it knocked them off their hinges, leading to her own short-lived but memorable sitcom, The Betty White Show, in 1977. Amid the whirlwind of her professional life, White's personal life flourished in a way that seemed straight out of a Hollywood script. Her marriage to game show host Alan Ludden was a shining example of enduring love, the kind of relationship that left onlookers envious. Indeed, the couple was known for their playful dynamic, often described as acting like newlyweds, long after the honeymoon phase had officially ended. This Brentwood haven wasn't just a home, it was the epicenter of their social life, regularly hosting friends and family for warm, convivial gatherings. And while her career kept her in the limelight, Betty White found her true sanctuary within the walls of her Brentwood home, a place where she indulged her love for animals. Indeed, the house was a menagerie filled with beloved pets, dogs, cats, birds, that reflected her deep-seated commitment to animal welfare. And White's dedication to animals wasn't a side project. It was a core part of her identity. She truly threw herself into support causes, working with organizations like the Morris Animal Foundation and the Los Angeles Zoo, where she served as a trustee, ensuring her contributions had a lasting impact. Yet, in 1981, White faced the greatest challenge of her life when Alan Ludden passed away from stomach cancer, a loss that left her reeling. Certainly their marriage had been her anchor, a source of unwavering joy and companionship that spanned nearly 2 decades. And while the grief that followed was profound, but White made the poignant decision to remain in their Brentwood home, a place heavy with the memories of their life together. The house, which had seen so much laughter and love, became her refuge as she navigated this new chapter alone. White often spoke of Ludden with unshakable fondness, and famously remarked that after him there was no need to marry again. Her loyalty to his memory was reflected in the way she maintained their home, every room a testament to the life they had built together. Thus, in the years after Ludden's death, White's career did anything but slow down. Her portrayal of Rose Nyland on The Golden Girls became iconic, earning her even more accolades and solidifying her place in television history. Yet no matter how brightly the lights shone on her professional life, her Brentwood home remained her true north, a place where she could retreat from the world, surrounded by the memories of her time with Ludden and the warmth of her many pets. In the wake of Betty White's passing on the 31st of December 2021, her Brentwood residence became an unexpected focal point for her admirers, a site where her legacy seemed to linger even as the world moved on. Yet, by June 2022, the property exchanged hands for a notable $10.6 million, despite the somewhat peculiar stipulation that no prospective buyers were permitted to step foot inside. This was no real estate stunt. The value lay strictly in the land, with an understanding that the house itself was destined for demolition. And demolished it was, later that same year. By December, almost a year to the day after White's death, the house had been cleared, leaving behind only a few steadfast elements like the fireplaces, which were also marked for removal. The razing of the Brentwood home closed a chapter that spanned over 5 decades, during which the house served as White's retreat, her private haven away from the spotlight. Yet, in a twist that one might say is fitting for White's enduring charm, fragments of her cherished abode found new life in unexpected places. The most notable of these relics was the bright yellow front door, a distinctive feature that comedian Chelsea Lynn snapped up with plans to install it in her own home. This seemingly whimsical purchase ensured that a piece of White's personal history would continue to brighten another threshold, even as her former home vanished from the Brentwood landscape. Meanwhile, White's estate undertook the task of managing her affairs with a sense of duty to her enduring passions. Proceeds from the sale of her property and other assets were directed towards causes close to White's heart, particularly those benefiting animal welfare. True to White's lifelong dedication to animals, her estate made a substantial $150,000 donation to the Morris Animal Foundation, a gesture that kept her philanthropic spirit alive, even in her absence. And, as the Brentwood property was planned for demolition, fans of White found themselves swept up in a wave of nostalgia, turning to social media to share personal memories of the actress. Kirsten Michaelis, White's longtime assistant and the steward of her Instagram account, kept fans informed of the developments surrounding White's beloved home. As the first anniversary of White's death loomed, Michaelis shared a touching Instagram post featuring a stark image of the property, now reduced to bare ground with only the fireplaces standing sentinel, awaiting their fate. Michaelis conveyed the poignant significance of the moment, noting the emotional weight of approaching the anniversary without the familiar presence of the Brentwood house. She wrote, "This is such a busy time of year, and coming up on the anniversary of Betty's passing is hitting in ways I hadn't anticipated. Her Brentwood home is no more, save the fireplaces, which will be gone in short order." And the post triggered a wave of responses from White's devoted fans, who expressed their sorrow over the loss of such an iconic piece of her life. Some questioned why the residence wasn't preserved as a memorial, a tangible tribute to the beloved actress. However, those close to White were quick to point out that she had been fully aware of the plans for the property and had made sure that the proceeds from its sale would continue to support the causes she held dear, particularly those focused on animal welfare. As the dust quite literally settled where Betty White's home once stood, her memory continued to echo through the lives of her fans worldwide. And while the Brentwood home may be gone,